Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast. Joining me today, two absolute titans from the world of Manchester United. I've got Ronaldo Brown. How are we?
I'm very good.
Yeah?
I'm not gonna lie to you, been very good for about a month now.
Are you smug, unbearable, just buzzing, all those things? I hope you like being a bit of a knob, if you know what I mean.
Do you know what?
Do you get where I'm coming from?
I'm just enjoying the moment. Do you know what I mean? Because I've not been able to enjoy a lot of moments over the last year or so.
14 months.
I feel like you're like.
So
do you know what you remind me of on socials? And I say this as a compliment. You're like the PG version of Stephen Howson. I see you replying and commenting to people, but you don't insult them. You don't necessarily call them horrible names or question their sexual prowess. You just sort of say, as Steve likes to do sometimes, if you noticed. Hey. You know what I mean? Or whether their mum and dad are married. You just sort of say, here's why you were wrong, and here's why I was right. Yeah, Notice there's a lot of that going on.
I don't mind a debate. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't ever be afraid of debating people, innit? And you don't have to do ad hominems or like be kind of vulgar in the way you describe people. You just kind of counter what they're saying. But
I think what Jay's trying to say is that you could go up another level still. You know, you've been a bit humble so far, if anything.
I think there's another level of unbearability to go to, Ronny. I think you're a bit of I mean, Mark's right. Well, we'll get into that. Mark Critchley's here from The Athletic. I mean, you're part of the furniture now, aren't you? I say that with all due respect. You are part of the firm. We have had you on quite a lot. Always good to have you on. You've been a bit busier as well, I noticed, lately. Because I used to chat to you and you'd be like, I'd be like, what have you been up to? You'd be like, I've got an article coming out in a few weeks.
It's Larry being on paternity, so somebody has to pick up the slack,
There's a lot there to cover as well, because he's proper busy.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
What have I missed?
Well, obviously Laurie having a baby from your reaction, or his missus having a baby.
Oh, Laurie having a baby, yeah. That's a medical marvel.
Yeah. He's had another child and he's on paternity, but he has been in. He's been into Paddock to do Inside United, and he's obviously, I think he's still doing Talk of Devils, but he's taking a paternity break.
Paternity's wasted on some people, and it's certainly wasted on Laurie Whitwell. Like, the guy, insane work ethic, insane work rate, but it's what we've come to expect.
How are you enjoying life post Ruben Amorim? Because there's obviously a lot still going on. There was a lot going on when Amorim was here, and there was a lot of to cover and to talk about, but it wasn't all positive, I think, if we're being honest. Mm-hmm. It has been mainly positive, certainly since Carrick's come in. How are you finding that?
Look, on the pitch, it couldn't be much better, I don't think. Results have obviously been brilliant, and you couldn't have asked for more. I think the style of play is really encouraging as well. It feels less risk averse to me. It feels like United now look to go out and attack teams and win games and really put their foot on teams and the neck of teams when they need to, which was something that didn't always happen under Amorim. Could sometimes feel a bit more reserved. And what's refreshing, and I know it's a simple point that a lot of people have made, but it's the simplicity of putting players in the right positions, of playing one of the best number 10s of his generation as a number 10 of, if you're a team that's struggling to build up from the back, why don't you put a player in midfield who's able to take the ball under pressure and manipulate situations and get you up the pitch, in Kobbie Mainoo. It's stuff like that. Lisandro Martinez, I know he was injured for a lot of Ruben's spell and wasn't necessarily, I'm sure he would have been in the team if he wasn't, but just seeing him get on the ball more and punching it into the midfield, and just a progressive forward thinking style of play, which is really encouraging to see. If there's one downside, I mean, the press conferences are a bit more of a drag now, I've got to say.
You know what's funny? You said about you
a bit more boring.
You mentioned Martinez, but Martinez and Amorim didn't have a good relationship either.
Yeah, no.
So it's like it's interesting because he didn't have a good relationship with Mainoo, obviously, and severely hampered his development. And it looks extremely silly right now with Mainoo being instrumental in a 4-game win streak, which is something that he never achieved. And then you've got, and then you've
in case anyone had forgot.
Yeah, and then you've got, but obviously remember he's not good enough to start. But
don't get me started, Ronny.
Listen, but you know what's mad?
So you know me and my thoughts on Kobbie Mainoo, and it was a horrible time for some of us, yourself included, who had to listen to some utter nonsense being spouted. Not by everyone. I'm not saying everyone who rated Ruben Amorim spouting nonsense about Kobbie Mainoo, but some of the discourse around it was just ridiculous. It was like people suddenly decided he wasn't any good. Well, you might think he doesn't fit the system, and you might back the manager or whatever, but the idea that Kobbie Mainoo, wasn't a good footballer, wasn't mint, or shouldn't have been in the team, for me was just insane. And some of the stuff I used to hear, I don't forget that it wasn't long ago people thought we should have got rid of Kobbie Mainoo and bought Conor Gallagher, and that's when I thought we've truly lost
listen.
and I've seen them comments because I did the news when we said about it, and there was a lot of people agreeing with that move, and I was like, I need to find something else.
I was on board for Wilfred and Ndidi though.
I don't understand that.
Wilfred and Ndidi swap, that's down. That's fine by me.
Yeah, hey, listen, that sentence that Gallagher one just infuriated me. And you know what's mad?
What we're doing here? Seriously, what? He's got a better engine. I'm like, you're talking nonsense. Like, Kobbie Mainoo's just a better player across the board, and Conor Gallagher's not that guy.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we got to, and I get like people want to be loyal to the manager, and I understand that. And Joe Smith, who we have, who's part of the channel, obviously, was as sort of supportive as Ruben Amorim as you can be, but even he's sort of got the idea that Kobbie Mainoo was a huge talent, and that was probably the saddest thing for me when it became so divisive to people to sort of,
because on the Martinez thing though, because as I was saying, like because you did mention it, which was a good thing. He's coming to the team and he's been instrumental as well. I think the statistics of the last few games is that he's been incredible, and he is one of the best ball playing centre halves in world football, and having someone like that is a massive obviously benefit in terms of the way you progress the ball and we can build up. And then you obviously bring Mainoo into the mix. It's not surprising United are playing better football, but it's interesting because even though he was injured for a lot of the time when Amorim was there, it did seem as though he had a lot of disagreements and not a great. You can probably tell me a little bit more. Sure. He didn't have a great relationship with Amorim. I think he had a bust up as well, and Martinez must have got the belief that his place in the team wasn't really there.
Wasn't there a bust up on the sort of the idea of how he was being brought back into the team? Wasn't it the idea that Amorim wanted to sort of bring him back slowly, and Martinez was keener to come back sooner? Was that?
I think that was what we wrote at the time, which was the last time I think I was in, was the day after Ruben got sacked, and we mentioned it in the piece that there had been an incident between the two of them at the training ground where Martinez had been training. I think it was the week between Crystal Palace and I think they play West Ham on Thursday night after Crystal Palace on the Sunday, so then in the time between that, and Martinez had come back from injury at Crystal Palace and then was taking part in, I guess, what would be a recovery session with players who were either substitutes in that game or who hadn't played, and that was on another pitch at Carrington away from where the first team session would have been. And there was some incident there where Amorim comes over to watch the recovery players, and then there was, I think we described it as them squaring up. There was some sort of disagreement there. The details of it, I think, I wouldn't go into depth on. But one thing I would say, and I think we made clear in that piece, was that it wasn't like this caused a huge rift in the relationship. It was something that actually Amorim actually appreciated, if you like.
Yeah,
like the fact that players were challenging him, and like the fact that Martinez was showing that character and that personality. And it was only, I think he was back, I think he came on again against West Ham, and then he even started a few games after that. I think I'm right in saying he was even captain when Bruno came out the side over Christmas, because he got injured against Villa, didn't he? And then he would have played the Newcastle game. Martinez was captain, so I would never suggest that was some sort of rift between the two of them. I only bring him up as somebody who is making a difference now, because look, he wasn't, because of injury, he wasn't in Amorim's teams for a long time, and now to see him do that, and he's playing in a back two as well, and it feels like maybe that accentuates more his ability to get on the ball and progress it, because you're not passing it around. So there's been less of a focus, I think, on sometimes just trying to play the ball around the back, and actually it's become more. I mean, we were used to seeing Lamens kick long, weren't we? And that was one thing that we were getting used to under Amorim. But now it feels like he's actually trusting players who have the ability to play balls through the lines more often, and Martinez is one of those. Yeah,
I mean, look, we're going to get into the Bruno Fernandes situation in a minute, and there's a lot to criticise what went on under Amorim, but I definitely think two things can be true. He got certain things wrong, but also he missed key players towards the end, and it's great to see those players coming back. Not just Martinez, who obviously came back into the team, but having the lads back from the AFCON. Harry Maguire coming back into the team has been huge as well. So it's been a sort of a mixture of two things. Players that like Mainoo, who should have been playing who weren't getting picked, and also players who probably would have played if they were available who weren't coming back. I think it's sort of been ideal for Michael Carrick now, and he's made the most of it. You can't, there's no denying what Michael Carrick's done has been fantastic. And I thought the City game in particular, I keep going back to it because I thought the performance from start to finish was as good as I've seen from Man United in years.
Can't downplay a 4-game winning streak in the Premier League. Because the way it is, especially the way the league is now, with every game being so difficult, with the teams being so competitive and the parity that's involved, it's no you can't really downplay the feat of winning 4 games in a row in this league now. And I think United have been the form side, you would probably say.
The top of the form table,
at the moment.
Because they would have drawn the one before as well.
And then we've obviously got West Ham, which will be another difficult game, because we're actually playing West Ham when they're finally arriving at a bit of an uptick, and they're starting to play a little bit better.
They've won 3 of the last 5, and I think it's
Somerville's playing well.
Yeah, they've won quite a few games.
They've become quite a exciting attacking outfit, interestingly enough.
They look like that Forest team from last year, don't they? They
look
like they organised, compact, but they'll kill you on the counter-attack.
So another test.
You've got to be careful of,
And United have how many remaining? We have United 13 cup finals, 13 cup finals probably, 13 tests remaining, and obviously the goal and the aspirations has to be Champions League football, because as we're finding out right now, even though the squad, we're not going to say not like the squad's perfect and all the players are excellent, there's obviously still holes, there's still areas that United can improve, there's still personnel that United probably need to bring in, but this team and this collection of players is better than we were being led to believe, and is capable of finishing in them Champions League places. And I think thankfully we are starting to see that now.
I'm going to get some super chats and some comments, and then we'll come to you, Matt, and we'll talk about Bruno Fernandes, because I know it's something you've been talking about, and I do want to get into it. Steve M says, Bruno is the best player in the league and best number 10 in the world. I have a growing suspicion that if Carrick stays, so will Bruno, otherwise he's gone. United do well under Amorim, says Apt Pattern. United do well under interim managers who are also club legends. Giggs, Van Nistelrooy, Carrick, Ollie. Can we make Carrick the permanent interim manager? Yeah,
they sort of did that though, didn't they? They sort of said, look, he's the head coach until the end of the season, but we're not calling him an interim. So it's almost, it's kind of the halfway house that they're in.
And then you've got, obviously, before this out there, I'm calling Indy Kaler is it Indy Kaler on camera? And we said last night about...
He got the David Ornstein co-sign, famously.
Mate, don't start with that, right? David Ornstein is the tier 1-ist of the tier 1s, right? He's the GOAT.
Oh, absolutely.
He absolutely...
Hey, no, that's
stats it with that one. Listen, we respect him more than anyone, right? But I could not believe what I was seeing when I saw him do a tweet and then follow it up with a reply of saying via Indy Kaler. I was like, hang on a minute, am I glitching here? What's going on? Is it an act?
I think that's unfair. You know what? All that happened with David Ornstein was Indy Kaler said something that was correct information when David Ornstein went to kind of find out himself. So he thought, someone's basically said the same thing before me. It's only right with journalistic integrity that I quote it. I think that's literally all he done. I think
he's too kind, then he's too nice. Because all that happened there is Indy Kaler does about 1 million different stories. And then one of them, he's right, and he'll quote tweet himself going, see, I told you this. 6 months ago or whatever.
I think he said something about Enrique and... he said something about last night about United meeting with Enrique.
This is Enrique.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's and then people thought, he said that, and then Gary Neville went and said on his podcast after the game that he's been told by that they've already started the managerial kind of search and basically feelers out there, and then people were like, could there have been a little bit of truth in it? Who knows? I don't know. But I think that's just common sense anyway. Maybe United are thinking of contingencies, and but obviously we'll wait to see how Carrick finishes the season.
We'll get to the manager. I really want to ask you about Michael Carrick and his future, and what United are looking at doing and which way you think it's going to go. But just on the subject of Bruno, when we're talking about him, I mean, 200 goal contributions, I think, in 314 games for United, which is just phenomenal, especially when you consider the names he's sort of up there with, Scholes and Giggs and Beckham and
he's beyond them. I think he did it in a shorter time than all of those.
Doing it in a shorter time. And look, when you're talking about Scholes and Giggs, you're talking about players like Wayne Rooney and Ruud van Nistelrooy and Andy Cole and whoever else alongside them. Bruno's had to do it where at stages in his United career he's had players well below the sort of the calibre of their teammates, and also below what you'd expect from Manchester United players in certain seasons, to be brutally honest. just what have you made of Bruno Fernandes this season? Because obviously started in a deeper role, so we're still doing well. Yeah. I think certainly in terms of his numbers as well, he's still up there. But we seem to be looking at Bruno Fernandes back to his best over the last 4 games.
Yeah. The maddest thing that I found when I was writing this piece after the game on Saturday was looking for a stat that could explain how much of a difference he's made over the last few games.
Yeah.
And I looked up chances created, because that's always the one that you would expect Bruno to be right at the top of. And he is right at the top of it. If you look at chances created in Premier League across the season, he's on 74. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. Do you know what the next most is?
There's going to be a gap here, isn't there? It's not going to be 73, is it?
Can I guess the player?
You can guess the player, yeah. That's good as well.
Go on, I'm curious.
I like this little quiz game.
Yeah.
I'm asking questions now.
Yeah.
It's not...
don't start listing players it's not.
No. Nah, wait, you didn't even let me finish.
I know.
I wasn't going to go, it's not. I was going to go... And then I was going to say him anyway, because he's been injured. But is it Bukayo?
No. But I won't give you...
Yeah, because he's around there, innit?
Yeah.
Because everyone talks about his stat...
Well, no, I don't know if he's around there or not. I just know who the next guy is.
Oh, it's Rice.
Yeah, it's Rice.
Okay.
So it's Rice.
And
how many do you reckon?
I've already had it ruined to Scott. Ronny, you guess, because someone's put it in already. So
someone's read my article. That's nice.
So, after Rice?
No. How many do you reckon he's on? Rough Rice.
I'm going to say 48.
I think you've hit the post.
47.
Yeah.
47?
Oh, that's there.
It's 47.
As daft as he looks, Ronny. Knows his stuff.
So that is what, 27 fewer than Bruno? Which is an insane gap.
It is insane, especially when you consider like the troubles and the issues United have had, the amount of games we haven't underperformed, the fact he's been playing in this deeper role. I know Rice isn't exactly number 10.
But do you know about the deeper role as well? The last 5 games, he's had 23 of those 74 chances that he's created have come in the last 5 games. So
really?
4 under Carrick and the 1 under Fletcher at Burnley. So he's moved into this number 10. I think it's not just him moving into the number 10, to be honest, because I think if you heard him talking the other day after the game, he was asked what's changed under Carrick, which is the question everyone's asking. He's talking about, well, the players have been given the responsibility to have a bit more freedom on the pitch, to make their own decisions, to make their own choices. And that was one thing that I think, Amorim loved Bruno. I think everybody appreciates his talent. But if you heard one criticism that he would make of Bruno, it was that sometimes he could be a little bit, indisciplined in his positioning. Like he would roam around, he would go in search of the ball, he wouldn't be playing in the role that he needed to play in, that he wanted him to be in, which was that deeper role in a system that I think we can say now didn't work at the time.
I think that's fair.
And the difference then to me, I think it seems, is that he's not just been said, right, you play as the number 10 now, it's you can be our conduit on the pitch, you can be the player that us as a coaching staff has, who can make the decisions, who makes things tick. Where's his goal come from the other day? It comes from the left wing, doesn't it? Where he turns up at the back post. Not especially a position you'd expect him to turn up in, but he's there. He's had this level of freedom and license to do what he feels he needs to do on the pitch over the last few games. And you've seen that in the fact that like those chance creation stats have absolutely rocketed. I mean, I don't know how many chances Rice has created, but he must have been level pegging with him before, right? Because he was out the team.
Yeah.
And then he's done about 23 since then. He must have only been a few ahead of him, and he's absolutely stormed past him over the last couple of weeks. And I think that speaks to just how well he's playing right now. I've said it in the piece, he's just in a different stratosphere to any other player creatively in the league right now. And I think it's maybe, it's up there with, what was Bruno's best season? I don't know.
Well,
I think his first one was great,
season,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just no coincidence that his output is starting to boom again once he's put in his natural position, is what we're basically saying.
I think that is definitely a reason, and he's having more of an effect up in the final third. I'm just saying that it's not just that we play him as a number 10 now, it's that we say to him, I mean, there was a quote that I'm not going to get it off the top of my head now, but there's a quote in there that I used from Amorim in the piece where back in September, and he says, Bruno wants all the freedom in the world, but essentially it's more important that he plays his position and that United are winning games than Bruno just playing well by himself.
Yeah.
And I think what that ignores is the fact that if Bruno's playing well, United are usually playing well as well.
Yeah, I mean that is true, and that's been true for a little while. And it's there's so much that Bruno does that you can just admire. Like I think it was the Fulham game, and I was just watching him, and it's the last minute, and he's just chasing things down. He's got such an engine on him.
Creates
as well.
the pass with Sesko.
Yeah, he's just
incredible.
everything he does. He's just like this guy, man. He's something else. And look, he's 31. I think there's there was reports, pretty strong reports, and I think he said it himself that he could have gone last summer, and that maybe the club weren't too gutted if he had left. They got a big payout for him. I'm so grateful he didn't. But I just think you need to keep Bruno. I think you need to keep Bruno for at least another couple of seasons. I think this guy could end up playing into his mid-30s because he's just the way he is, and the sort of how fit he is, and the engine he's got, and the ability he's got as well. I just think if he ends up leaving, we'll end up watching him playing amazingly for someone else for the next few years, thinking he could have been doing that at Old Trafford. And people say, well, you can reinvest that money, you could get money for him and spend it, and get another player to replace. Can you? Can you do that? How easy is it to replace a Bruno Fernandes?
Do you trust this club to replace him?
No, I don't.
I'm going to ask Mark, is there any... I think Mark gets scared whenever I say this. But I want to know if there's any slight truth to this clause that people think he has, or this gentleman agreement about him being able to be sold for a certain amount to a European side.
I've heard about this, but I don't have any concrete information on it. I haven't been able to check it out fully. So I think I don't know is the answer. I wouldn't want to say I wouldn't want to say either way if I don't know. I think that the prospect of his future will come up again in the summer. I expect it to. I think it's likely to. I think the fact that it did last year and came pretty close in the end to actually resulting in him leaving. It's closer than he's ever been before to leaving the club. And it doesn't feel like it's totally settled. He's obviously done a couple of interviews since then. He spoke to Laurie and a few other Manchester journalists on the patch back in, I think, October, and gave his version of events. And then he did the one in Portugal a couple of months ago. Do you remember that one? So much has happened over the last month.
It was like he gave an interview, I think, to the media here, and then not long after that there was one with Portugal where he was even more sort of
he was
honest,
quite critical of the hierarchy in that interview, wasn't he? He was saying that essentially he felt that they did not want him to stay sufficiently enough for him to feel wanted, essentially. I can understand that. I think that the situation last summer was a bit of a dilemma for both sides, because on the one hand you're Bruno Fernandes saying to the club, well, look, I've got this really attractive offer from Saudi Arabia. It's generational wealth for my family. I could go and take it if you want me to go. And then the club is saying, well, look, we've got this offer from Saudi Arabia that's 80 to 100 million pounds, and we could rebuild a whole squad with it. And we love you as a player. We want to keep you, but if you want to go, then we can accept the offer. And so it becomes a bit of a Mexican standoff, and each one is trying to leave the ball in the other's court to make the decision for them. And I think that was a really difficult situation for both parties that's ultimately resulted in, Bruno in the end saying, look, I'll stay. And I don't think would United be challenging for a Champions League place right now if they didn't have Bruno Fernandes in the team? Don't think so.
Can't imagine it.
Don't think so, and that's probably worth 80 to 100 million anyway, so you can say it's worthwhile in the end. But then a year down the line, a year closer to the end of his contract, a year older, does that situation come to a head? Is the answer to that question a bit more debatable this time? I don't know. I'm still very much in the camp that I think he needs to stay, because I think he's that important. I agree with you. He could play for years and years until into his mid-30s and still be effective. That's been the pattern. But no club, any serious club has to, if that offer's on the table again, any serious club has to consider it.
Could United feasibly lose Casemiro and Bruno in the same window?
Yeah, and Maguire. I know in terms of leadership, but yeah.
Because we know how good they are as players, as we're describing, but then it's also, you're losing senior figures within the squad. You're losing big personalities in the squad, big characters, and then that's quite a bit of a shift in itself in terms of obviously culture and obviously you can bring in some of the money you'll collect, and obviously the money you'll probably lose off the books in terms of the wages that obviously Casemiro's on and Bruno on. They're on like 300k ish plus. They're on quite heavy money, so I don't know whether that's coming to the factoring of Ineos probably being not too bothered about letting him go, but I just think it's like a big miss, and it's a concerning one that goes beyond the value that they provide on the pitch, because they're obviously such big like elements of the team in terms of the dressing room, and obviously Bruno's a captain, and I just feel like it will be a tough one. And from what we've seen from United over the years, and in particular Ineos, do we really believe that they're competent enough to make the right decision in the transfer market to offset it? I'm not quite sure.
No, I think that's all fair. And like, if he goes, who's your captain? Like, if Maguire's gone as well.
Maybe Martinez. Maybe I think.
Maybe. Dalot.
Yeah. I mean, mate, the comments are going to go wild now with that suggestion.
But seriously.
But you know what? I'm here for it. Michael Dyson has been a member of the Academy for 48 months. Thank you for your support, Michael. Oh, I've just lost my mojo there. I'll try and get Michael's comment back. There it is. Hey guys, it's sure nice that we are winning games. Also, pretty hip that we bring on attackers as a sub and not changing centre back when chasing a win. Yeah, Michael Carrick goes for it, doesn't he? And he's always sort of on the front foot with his substitutions and seems to want to try and go for the win. It was a criticism that was aimed at Ruben Amorim quite a lot, because there was some validity in it. He seems to favour this sort of 65 minutes, 70 minute centre back for centre back, Aiden Heaven for Lenny Yoro, or I don't know, Maguire for Aiden Heaven, or whatever. There was always that sort of centre back change, which at times just looked almost pointless. It was a bit of a strange one. And now you see when Carrick's coming in, and he's doing making substitutions that sort of seemed geared towards going and getting that win. You saw it at the Arsenal game.
Arsenal game, perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been easy there to try and shut up shop a bit and maybe try and get a draw, but it was like, no, we're gonna keep going for it and keep them on the back foot and get the winner, which obviously we got as well, which is what it should be about. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think. Just on sort of life after Bruno, if it came to that, do you think the club are looking at that possibility in terms of targets and stuff like that, or do you think they're not even thinking about that yet? Especially when we don't know who the permanent manager is going to be. Yeah,
I think that is the factor, not knowing the manager. Obviously, the sense around the summer has always been midfield. And I guess the thing that's changed is that Bruno was part of that midfield and now isn't. So he's now a number 10. And I guess the players that they were talking about before, if we assume Casemiro was going, and they would have known that at the time, obviously, and they want to sign two, ideally. Do those two replace Casemiro and Bruno? Do they replace Casemiro and Ugarte? I think it's more likely at this point that it would be Casemiro and Ugarte who leave, but then that does raise a question about Bruno as well. And I'm not aware of anything in the number 10. I know people mention Cole Palmer's name a lot. I don't have anything concrete on that to say, but.
Well, Bruno did comment on one of his Instagram posts. That means that he's heading to Old Trafford immediately.
He's done the same on Declan Rice recently.
Well, there you go. We're getting him as well then. There you go. There's your new look midfield. Yeah. Rice and Palmer are coming at United. You're here first.
That'll be cheap.
I mean, it's just almost impossible task, isn't it, trying to replace Bruno Fernandes? Cole Palmer is someone that you could think, okay, if you lost Bruno, that is someone who's in that sort of stratosphere, but are you going to get him?
I don't think he is in his stratosphere.
Do you not even think? I'm not saying he's as good as him. I think he's a sort of, I think the stratosphere in that sort of level-ish.
Because the thing is, this is what's so scary about the two players that we mentioned in terms. I know we're talking about Bruno, but Casemiro as well, is that when you actually think about the value that they provide on the pitch in a singular player, it's like you need. It's almost. I think you would need 4 players to replace what Bruno and Casemiro give you, because obviously Casemiro is our best defensive midfielder, and his interceptions, his tackles, and his defensive metrics are actually some of the best in Europe. Even still right now. But then he's also our best box threat in terms of attacking the penalty
5 Premier League goals he's got this season, which isn't too shabby.
One of our best
aerial threats. He's been pretty good at the last few years, hasn't he?
Great jeweler. He's great defensively in your own box. Think about the amount of value you provide, but then he's also a very underrated, progressive passer. He's got a vertical passer, and he's good frying the ball.
Doesn't even need to look.
Does it?
Mate.
And then you've got Bruno, who provides you all this creative output, and one of the best creators that the Premier League's ever seen. But then his out of possession work rate and his ball recoveries and all that are also exceptionally high. And it's like, whenever people are mentioning players to replace either of them, they might be able to replace one element of what they're good at, but then they're not necessarily got the level of what the other is. For example, Palmer, he's a great creative player. Obviously, it's fell by the wayside, and he's obviously a top talent. He's an exceptional player, but he doesn't have the out of possession intensity of running, and he doesn't provide that part of the game, and then you lose that. With Casemiro, even the likes of Elliot Anderson, Baleba, and Wharton, they might all be able to do certain things better than Casemiro, but in terms of an all-encompassing thing, is there's bits of it that you lose out. That's why I think you probably need multiple players to replace one, and that's the scariest thing about them.
Yeah, if you lost Casemiro and Bruno, we're going to lose Casemiro obviously, but if you lost Bruno as well, you're in all sorts of trouble there, aren't you? Trying to fix that problem, because next season, hopefully, we'll have Champions League football as well. You're going to be fighting on 4 fronts, and you're going to want to, just make up the numbers. You want to be in that competition to try and do as well as you can in it. Yeah. And like you said, Ronnie, trying to replace 2 players who've got so many good facets to the game, it actually scares me.
Bruno's best ability is his availability as well, which is
Ronnie loves that saying. I think Ronnie invented it.
What about, you could change it though, like best ability is flexibility. It works, this stuff.
Yeah, the best ability is durability.
Durability.
I first got that phrase and heard it from Shannon Sharp on Undisputed.
Did you? Oh, right.
I used to always quote Ronnie, because I didn't hear that. I heard Ronnie say it first.
See, I had it down as Ronaldo Brown.
As Ronnie always says, the best ability is availability. I'm going to stick with that.
I got it from Shannon Sharp, and then it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Palmer's not got that, has he? Palmer's been injured for a lot of this season. There's huge questions about
this is another issue United have got. Bruno is like the standout player when it comes to his availability as well, because he's been injured once, I think, this season, and I think that actually could be once in like last 4 years. Yeah. Where he missed like 2 games with a hamstring injury, by the way, which is in itself is insane, because you're usually out for about a month, aren't you?
And he was still back after 3 or 4 games, and he was begging to come back before that.
I can't believe how fast he came back.
What's that? Like, this guy's ridiculous.
He played on with it in the Villa game as well.
And like, you look at all the other players you've got, like Martinez, we spoke about his injury problems. De Ligt, who I think was arguably our best player up until November, he's been out since November, and there's no sort of sign of when exactly he will be back. Other players like Mount's never really got going. I think he's having a good season. This season he's injured again. Pretty much take your pick. There's only 1 or 2 players who don't have a pretty ropey injury record at United. So to lose someone like Bruno, who's always available, and he's 9 games out of 10, he's absolutely amazing.
And this is the thing as well with Bruno. Just final point on him is that we said, look, he's amazing in possession, his creative ability, absolutely different stratosphere, whatever. Out of possession, he does everything you could ever want him to do off the ball in terms of his effort and his work rate, in terms of his leadership as he's a captain, the way he's around the club, his availability. It's maddening to me that that he's ever really been questioned as a United player by anybody. What more could you want from somebody as a player? And he's done it all.
I sometimes feel like this is sort of almost like a hipster revisionist theory. It's like, well, he's not actually that good. If you watch the games, like what? What you want about? I remember when it was like an argument years ago that Donny van de Beek should be starting ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, on what planet should that be happening? Like, where are you getting that from? Like, I just couldn't get my head around what people were saying, especially when Bruno was playing at the time and what we saw from Van de Beek when he was playing for United, which was okay, but it wasn't Bruno Fernandes.
He used to score whenever he came on, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did do that twice.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's because
it's a trick here, actually.
Yeah, stand corrected.
Do you know what it is? It's when a team's not doing well, the best player is always the player that's not playing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. It's always like...
Yeah, it's like, you tell you what the issue is. The issue is you've not picked
it's always
Van de Beek, or you've not picked whoever. I mean, people might say, well, you say that about Kobbie Mainoo, but I stand by it. But more often than not, it is that one who's not about that you go, if we had him in the team, we'd be all
There's
right.
no greater PR for a player than the player or players in their position area. That's starting above them that are not playing well.
Do you remember last season in the Europa when Cheeto wasn't eligible, and that was it.
Freak out.
If we had Cheeto,
freak out.
Yeah. If we had Cheeto in this competition, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He was the guy that everyone looked at when things were going wrong in that competition. It's always the way. Matt G401 says, does Matt think appointing a World Cup coach would badly impact pre-season, and would that impact benefits of keeping Michael Carrick? Get the jump on rivals changing manager. Yeah, we'll move on to Carrick's future and what United are going to do. Some of the names that have been suggested, likes of Tuchel and Nagelsmann as well. Like these are managers that might not be available right now. What do you think United are doing? Because we heard from Gary Neville saying that United have started this process of looking already, which you kind of expect them to. They've got to at least have some sort of discussions about that. Where do you think United are up to with that, and what do you think is going to happen?
So I feel like on the question of the World Cup stuff, I think they'd be prepared to do that if they felt it was the right person, absolutely. They've done it before. If you think back to 2014, Louis van Gaal, I know it was a different ownership, different management, different leadership, but in terms of it affecting pre-season, yes, it might do, but then I think for the right guy, that's a price that you're willing to pay, and it's not that much of an overlap, really, so you can afford to do it. I think that if we think about the way that United have progressed through managers over the last decade or so, it's often been a reaction to whatever they had last time, and a bit of a flip and a 180. So, you know, Ten Hag, I liked Ten Hag. I thought he was a good guy. You could probably say he's not the most charismatic of the post-Sir Alex Ferguson era managers, and so they go for somebody with a lot of charisma.
It's a good point, isn't it? Because they have always pivoted, pretty much post-Fergie, to someone who is, like you say, almost the opposite or almost, you know, fills that gap that like Moyes hadn't won out, Van Gaal had won the lot. Yeah. You know, Van Gaal didn't know the Premier League, Jose had won 3 Premier Leagues. Jose didn't get Manchester United, he was never really a guy who understood, you know, all he did. Do you know what I mean? There's always been that sort of...
Someone's done it, you know what's mad? I've seen, there was quite a semi-viral, sounds like an illness, that, isn't it?
Anyway, it's semi-viral. You know I mean? We'll give you some tablets and we'll see how you get on.
Antibiotics, but for that. there was a thread basically that said what you said. I remember that United have done a thing of every manager they recruit them depending on what they feel like the past manager didn't have. Do you know what I mean? Right, and that's kind of like a little bit of
what's the opposite of Ruben then?
Winning.
well, I think Ruben, I think we're almost back to the Jose thing of he didn't understand the club, he didn't get about the importance of the academy, he didn't understand the style that people wanted to see, what United DNA, which I know is a buzzword that almost is meaningless, but what that meant. So you bring in someone who's been a player, a coach, and a caretaker manager at the club already, who ticks all those boxes. So it does feel like that is almost a reaction to what Ruben Amorim didn't have. Even if you go back further and you look at when Ollie was replaced permanently to the end of that season by Ralph Rangnick, the criticism of Ollie was, did he have the experience to sort of manage at the top level? Could he get us over the line? Ralph Rangnick with his gegenpress and all over nonsense, has been around for years and has managed at the top level.
Theory guy.
Yeah, that's the
sort than the PE teacher.
Yeah, the antidote.
Air quotes.
The antidote to. Mark, I was made to feel like a right thicko because I didn't understand about the gegenpress and how great it was all going to be. So yeah, it did feel like it was a reaction to that, and sometimes you don't need to always do something like that, do you? You can just sort of pick a manager who's the right man for the job.
But I do feel that the club, and to an extent it makes sense, because it only shows that the club is looking at what went wrong and deciding we don't want that to happen again. So what can we change about the next appointment? And I think you're right about Ruben and the DNA and the understanding of the club, and maybe perhaps that'll be an element of it. I also think you look at Ruben, he was quite young, he was quite inexperienced, he hadn't really managed a elite club in a big league before, and it makes so bringing it back to the World Cup question, a lot of the managers that you're talking about there, the names, they've been there, they've done it. The reason why they're in international management is because they've got that reputation and pedigree, and I just wonder whether that'll be what the next reaction is. It'll be, well, we didn't have somebody who could, we thought he could have carried the club on his back, and we thought he could represent because he had this great charisma, but in the end he felt somewhat overwhelmed by it, and that was certainly the case, the feeling towards the end, wasn't it? I mean, I think people at United were quite taken aback by how quickly it just fell apart over those last couple of weeks, because the pressures of the job had got to him, and they want somebody, I think, they'll probably end up going for somebody who they think can handle that. I imagine that will be the almost opposite reaction response this time.
Isn't it mad how, like, when we bring these managers in, what is seen as their positive, the reason we like him, becomes the negative. Like Ruben Amorim, he's great in a press conference, he'll tell you what's on his mind, he's very charismatic, very chatty, he comes, and then all of a sudden he just starts telling you far too much, and you're like, hang on a minute, maybe you need to slow down. With Ollie, he's great, he can put an arm around a player's shoulders, he can you can connect with him, then he's too kind to him, he's too friendly with him. Do you know what I mean? With Jose, he's like the hard taskmaster, then he's too harsh.
Toxic environment.
Too much, you know what I mean? He's not friendly enough.
The players,
it always becomes, doesn't it, the sort of the thing you brought him in for. When they start doing that, he's like, well, stop that. We need you to sort of be less like that, which is a bit problematic. We'll carry on with this one set. I've got a couple of super chats. Glenn F, who's been a member of the Academy for 59 months, thanks for your support, bro, says, I think if we sell Bruno and he doesn't want to go, I don't think Ineos will be able to replace him for the money they'll get. Up the Reds, up the Paddock to anyone who's coming. Ian says, could this period be net positive for Kobbie? It looks like he has the bit between his teeth, controlling games now rather than having moments of magic. Possibly, I mean, you could argue that, I suppose. We'll never know, will we? We'll never know what would have happened had Kobbie been playing all season. All I know is that he's playing right now, and I also think that there's a little bit of revisionism going on, that Kobbie was sort of, now we're seeing the real Kobbie. And I think if you go back to that first season, people were saying the same things they're saying now about him. Do you know what I mean? I know his second season he had a lot more injuries.
How can you see the real Kobbie if he's not playing?
No, that's
Do you know what I mean?
You know what I mean? I know, but like people are acting like
he's
he's not been at this level before almost, and it's like now he's suddenly exploded into. This is a kid that came in, man of the match on his debut, end of that season scores the decisive goal in the cup final against City, and he's man of the match in the midfield that's got Rodri and De Bruyne in it, and finishes the summer playing for England in the Euros final. It's not like he's suddenly become a good player. I think he's always been there. He just didn't suit the system that Amorim had, and obviously Amorim didn't rate him. Carrick as the permanent manager, which he's always going to be sort of discussed about and sorts about. And do you think the club are waiting to see? Do you think there's an element of that with the sort of the run we're on? I know it's only 4 games, but it isn't. It's as good as you can do, win 4 games. Do you think there is an element of, all right, let's see what Carrick does and then we can weigh it up? Or do you think they already might have had these conversations where it's like, look, he's not the main man permanently?
Well, I think first of all, I would be really surprised if they were to do what happened with Ollie last time, which was, in the middle of the interim spell, say, actually, you've got the
after
permanent
you've lost
job.
twice as well. After you've lost back-to-back games. Which
was it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we lost at the Emirates,
Arsenal,
didn't we? And then Wolves. I know it was in the different competitions.
Oh, yeah,
Because we got knocked out of the FA Cup, do you remember?
Yes.
And it was like, at one point we're going to win everything. And then we got into the top 4, and then we obviously had that amazing night in Paris, we were in the top 4. Come back from Paris, I think it was lost at Arsenal.
Then it was Arsenal.
Then it was lost at Wolves.
Yeah.
And then they made him permanent manager.
Yes.
So you were still on a bit of a high because of everything that had gone on, but it was a little bit like, he's had a little wobble now. And then that wobble just turned into falling off a cliff that season.
But then also, people have recharacterised that whole period as though it went totally wrong after that. And there was 2 seasons of pretty okay football.
No, I think you can say it.
He did all right.
3rd and 2nd in 2 full seasons. Yeah. I think if with Carrick, let's say for example, Carrick gets the job and he's given a 3-year deal, and we're sat here in 2 years' time, we've finished 2nd. I think we go, okay, that's not too shabby. Yeah. And after finishing 3rd in his first full season, so I don't think we can dismiss it. I think the problem that Ollie had was that final season, ironically, where you finish 2nd and everyone looks at that as a positive, actually raised expectations, and losing that Europa League final kind of built this narrative that he wasn't the guy to get us over the line. And I think Steve M mentioned it in the chat as well, like some of the signings, that some of the Ronaldo signing was huge, wasn't it? Because then it's like all of a sudden now, you've got Sancho, you've got Ronaldo, you've got Varane.
Yeah.
You should be winning a title now. Yeah. And then we had our worst form we'd had under him since that first season, or that first half season, and people were like, he's not the guy. And ironically, things probably just got a bit worse when he left. But after Carrick, obviously. So,
but I think on Carrick, I would be surprised if they were going to repeat that and bring him in mid-season and give him a permanent deal. But the process that they're going through will probably be seen out, I imagine, until the end of the season. At which point, if he's got them in the Champions League, then he's got to be under consideration to some extent. If you've done that job and you've made a relative success of it, then he's going to be in. It'd only be fair to put him in the mix alongside Tuchel and Nagelsmann and whoever you want to add into that.
I wonder how risk averse they are, Ineos and the decision makers, because I think say if let's say we finish 3rd, right? Things go really well, we finish 3rd, and they go, right, we're sticking with Carrick. I think everyone would get that. And let's say it doesn't work out, you can at least say, well, look, we just finished 3rd. He'd won 15 out of 18 games, whatever it could be. That's why we did it. And people go, okay, yeah, I get it. I think if we do that, you get rid of him, you bring in Tuchel or someone, and it doesn't work out, then I think people will be like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
You got rid of a manager who's done really well and replaced him with someone who we didn't need and has now, flopped. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm just wondering, do they consider that? Do they think that this is a decision we can get away with?
It's hard to know, innit?
I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case.
They'll argue that they won't probably feel this cold. They'll address it as a complete separate entity type of situation to what happened with Ollie. They're not going to be like, what happened with Ollie, so I won't do it. I think what will happen is they'll if they're a competent boardroom, they'll just see it as, however the season ends, they'll have a list of probably candidates they like, and they'll probably just do due process like they would do, and Carrick will probably just be another name that's involved in it.
Yeah,
that'll probably just be what it is.
Yeah,
that would be the sensible way of doing it. And also, the other thing is that he isn't totally unrelated to Ollie as well, because he was on the staff and he was doing a huge part of the coaching, and him and Kieran McCarron were key parts of that coaching staff. Solskjaer, I think, would say this himself, that they were the guys that he would turn to. So you've almost had a little bit of a trial run with it already, but also he could have learned from that experience. It's obviously been very different being the head coach as opposed to the assistant. He's got different coaches around him now who are definitely having an impact. Steve Holland, Jonathan Woodgate, etc. So it's a different.
I'm loving the Steve Holland.
Funny because people are saying that's a name that's going to be likely in the hat in the summer. Kieran McKenna.
Right. Kieran McKenna.
Yeah, people have suggested that he'll probably be in the running as well.
He was certainly linked, and I can't remember whether they spoke to him or not. I think maybe they did around the time of the FA Cup and Ten Hag, Willie won't he, around that period. I think by the time that they actually got round to getting rid of Ten Hag, I mean, his stock, he'd been relegated by. No, they'd been promoted, hadn't they? But they maybe didn't started that great that season, so he wasn't really in the mix anymore. I think he's somebody that they like and appreciate.
It's very difficult with Kieran McKenna to judge him at Ipswich as well, because what he did there was unreal, wasn't it? Back-to-back promotions. And their budget, for the Championship, was low.
Sure.
So to get him promoted to the Championship was an achievement. Then to get him promoted out of the Championship in his first attempt was unreal. They come into the Premier League, they haven't really got any dough. I mean, it was almost impossible to keep him up.
He still had 4 or 5 players. They still had 3 or 4 players that were playing for him in League One that were still in the Premier League.
That's what I mean.
What McKenna did at Ipswich was actually quite incredible in terms of the job, and he massively overachieved. Yeah. But obviously, what people will do is they don't acknowledge context like that. They'll just go, why United going to recruit a manager that got relegated with Ipswich when you've seen how well Carrick has done currently, and obviously Carrick had 2 years at Middlesbrough and did not, and in Carrick's 2 years at Middlesbrough, probably with more budget and probably even a better squad, didn't do as well as what Kieran McKenna did with Ipswich. So because what Michael Carrick's thing was I think the 2 years he managed Middlesbrough, they were the best by every metric in terms of going forward, like their attacking stats. So he's obviously very good at coaching in that sense, but it was just more defensively that they weren't quite up to scratch. So there were still positive signs for Carrick, and obviously when you're at United, you're likely to get the luxury of getting really good attacking players as well. And you see how well we've done so far in terms of scoring goals. But I don't know, it is hard to say because the same thing got relegated, didn't he? Vincent Kompany with Burnley. He's gone to Bayern and he's done all right. I know it's a little
easy road.
It's easy road at Bayern, but it's still a job where they don't take. The thing is, when you go to clubs like Real Madrid and Bayern, the league necessarily is not difficult in terms of the disparity in talent that you've got compared to everyone else, but they're a little bit more cutthroat in it in terms of you can't even afford the slightest blip and then you'll end up losing your job.
Tuchel lost his job there. Didn't impress people enough.
Pep did. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's different. You mentioned Real Madrid as well. That same sort of thing. Well, look at what's gone on there as well with their managerial sort of merry-go-round. It's not. It's not easy, is it? Just on that as well, it was just a third.
Yeah.
In the Championship.
Yeah, it's still doing well.
Yeah, so...
I mean, they'll have parachute payments in the Premier League squad-ish now, but no, absolutely, he's still doing a great job.
He could end up, at the end of the season, he could end up back in the Premier League, which might make them look at him again. Also, Coventry struggling, aren't they, just as an aside? And Middlesbrough could come up where Rob Edwards might end up going down in the club that he left a coming up. Anyway, I digress. Sorry.
It's quite a digression.
Akig Belly Zobe says, an English coach just won the Super Bowl. Could this be the year an English coach wins the Premier League, or am I just getting carricked away? Great pun. Yeah, you're into your American football, aren't you? One of the defensive coordinators or something was a English person from Middlesex or something.
Yeah, it was.
There we go. Sorry.
You sound like an expert.
I know. Is that awesome?
Yeah. I don't want to sit here and pretend I know. I just saw it on Twitter. Yeah, and he said like the defensive coordinator is a guy whose name's already escaped me, and he was from Middlesex or something, and he's an Englishman who's
bit in Alan Partridge with that bloke Tex who talks.
And he's like, put it on my tab, and he's like, put it on my slate. Yeah, like that. Sorry. Should we bring back Angel Gomez if we sell a guy? Says Chris Bignell. Where's he gone, Gomez? He's
at Wolves now.
Yeah.
Just joined Wolves.
I think he had performed pretty well against Chelsea.
Did he? I didn't catch the game. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he gets on, because the question has always been his physicality. Like the Premier League now is just such a beast mode game that I just wonder how he'll get on. But it's interesting, and I think Wolves are probably resigned to their fate, aren't they? Yeah. So they might be signing players for the Championship that had the feel of that, and see how he gets on.
Danny Shields, who's been a member of the first team for 61 months, which is phenomenal, says Bruno is this generation's Robbo. I hope he ends up like Robbo did, with 2 Premier League titles at least. It's Wally of the Week time. You know that time where we name our Wally of the Week. It's pretty self-explanatory. Ronny, I'll start with you. Have you got one? Is there anyone that stands out for you?
I wasn't best. As soon as I saw it in the Liverpool game.
Oh, come on, yes.
Is it the decision at the end?
Yeah.
I was going to say that and the thing is, the laws of the game suggest that they obviously couldn't give the goal because an advantage was played to Haaland, and then Haaland's then fouled, so it has to go back. But I just thought, for the sake of the circus and like the fanfare, and sometimes I think rules are there to be bent.
They're not there to be bent.
1000%
like
agreement.
Yeah, you open up a can of worms when you start doing that. Like, genuinely, you do, because it's like, if you stick to the rules, no matter what the circumstances, you go, these are rules, it don't matter, they're the rules, I've stuck to them. But next time that happens and you go, actually, I'm not going to enforce rules, it's like, I
don't care. Yeah, I think you said you want consistency, I want common sense, and common sense in that moment is to just let the goal stand, right? If we were still in 2019 in the sunlit uplands in the time before VAR, and that happens, nobody gives a shit. They just let the goal stand.
I hear that.
And why are we disallowing it? It was a great moment, and it's ruined by this.
The only funny positive about it is Szoboszlai obviously getting.
He's in my FPL team, so no, it's not a positive.
Yeah, but it means he's got, for me as a United fan, he's got one game against them away where they don't have him, and he's probably been their best player this season.
Yeah. That free kick was unreal, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, so you got your points, man. You
get -3 for a red card.
You got your points, but and also I had Haaland in mind, so I wanted him to get on the end of it. And also that extra goal difference wise, would have sent Liverpool below Brentford, which would have been funny to say.
I love the minutiae. He's got into it. You know what I mean?
Keeping an eye on.
I didn't really care. It was like, who gives a toss?
It was a great moment, though. I'd never seen anything like that in football before. I never even thought that could happen.
I was mildly annoyed with Szoboszlai from a sort of objective point of view, thinking, foul him properly, like pull him down and stop him, like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Robert Lee back in the day. Yeah. Take him out. Like just,
but you know what? That made it better.
Or Ander Herrera at Wembley on who was it? The Everton player. Ross Barkley, like where he just yanked him. He's like, "You're not going anywhere, sunshine." And then Ross Barkley reacted, and they both got yellow, which was hilarious. I thought, do that, but he just sort of tried to and didn't quite. So yeah, I didn't really care, but I get your point. It was a bit.
It just spoiled the moment. I
struggled to get to, bent up about City goals getting disallowed. Okay. Being honest, it's not like they can start crying about being hard done by when it comes to the rules, is it? Come on. Who's your Wally of the Week?
I was going to say that guy.
I was going to say whoever. Is it Craig Pawson?
You know what? No.
Craig Pawson.
So the VAR.
The VAR that took
the VAR was John Brooks, and I went to uni with him. We were going to join a band together at one point.
What?
Yeah, this is true.
This is an exclusive.
This is true. So John Brooks, I don't want you to be my Wally of the Week, because I sort of know you personally.
Talk about throwing your mates under the bus. You actually know him.
I don't know him. I just went to uni with him. I met him a couple of times.
Since Anthony Crolla chose his own brother have we had someone name a mate of theirs or someone they know as Wally of the Week.
I haven't seen him in 15 years. And look, one day maybe I'll get an interview. Maybe we can.
Oh, is this what it is?
Like, John, if you're out there, anytime.
Listen, I get your point. I don't want to say this, right, because she gets so much grief, and I don't want to add to it because I think a lot of it crosses a line.
But I'm going to add to it right now.
But I think you have to be honest about something if someone's just not doing themselves any favours. And Annie Aluko lately, the latest podcast where she's having to go at Ian Wright and she's talking about how many caps she's got and how many caps was sat in the stands for the game, and it was just a bizarre little rant as well, because when she was naming the commentators for the Women's Euro final, I thought she was just going to name a load of men, and she didn't. It was like women and men, which I think is fine.
Yeah, just one.
And then she was like, you don't get women commentating on big, male games. I think, well, you do. And I think it was just a bit of a weird thing, and obviously bringing up Ian Wright again, I think you need to move on from this, because Ian Wright, whether you like him or not, has been a massive advocate and champion of the women's game.
I thought she was apologetic and that.
Well, she's changed her mind now, because she's still going on about him.
It didn't make any sense. What did she argue? She was like, she said, and then she was being contradictory because she said people conflate, what did they conflate? Thingy with pundit.
Punditry presenting.
Punditry presenting.
She said people conflate punditry.
So
why did she know what to put? Let me land. This is the thing is, but then she was like, but she then conflated how many caps you have in commentary, and how many caps you have with punditry.
Yeah, like that's automatically. If you've got the most caps, like Peter Shilton should be on every pundit because he's got the most England caps or whatever. Yeah. Like, well, that's not how it works, is it? You've got to be. And Laura Woods has gone in pretty hard on her today, and it's like, look, I don't think you're doing anyone any. I don't think you're doing yourself any favours. I don't think you're doing women's game any favours. I don't think there's this unnecessary agenda you've got against Ian Wright, who's not that guy. I don't think he deserves any sort of criticism when it comes to women's game. You can tell he gives a toss. He loves the women's game, and he's a massive champion of it. And I just think it's all a bit daft, and and it saddens me, because then she'll get abuse she shouldn't get as well, and it just adds to all this sort of divisiveness. So yeah, I just think it's just I don't get it. I don't get why she doesn't just move on. Okay, yeah, we'll move on. Make sure if you're not doing so, you check out the link in the chat for our merch. There's merch there as well. You know what I'm going to do? I'll put a link in the chat to Mark's Twitter rather than the Athletic. You can go, because he's always tweeting good stuff, and then that'll take you to his articles in the Athletic as well. Is there anything you're working on that you can tell us about?
No.
Thank you. Exclusive there. No. Nothing.
You know me. I don't work.
Yeah, you're just waiting to see.
You've been really busy recently.
Keeps it to himself. He's
like
when Carl Anker went on the overlap and went, I've got something to say. I can't say though. I love that. I can't say. You have to read it in the Athletic. And everyone's like, what? Tell us now. So yeah, make sure you check out Mark's work on the Athletic. Go and check Ronny out on his channel as well. Yeah, doing good stuff on there. I'm enjoying it, man. Do you know what I mean? You've picked the right time to start this channel, because everything has been happening since you started it.
And he's been proven right on everything at the same time.
I don't say that very often.
I started in October, and it wasn't a great time. I'm not gonna lie to you. Watching United.
Did you start at the end when the run had come to an end?
Nah,
you had a good October.
Yeah, I just
3 games.
It was actually it was just before it, and then it happened, but. Because as I said, what's happened recently, it's been a bit euphoric, I guess, where I would go into weekends not looking forward to watching the club and just not enjoying my time. And I feel like at least I've got that right now. Obviously, United will likely have some blips to come in the weeks and some difficulties. You always will. The Premier League's tough. But for now, all I can do is actually bask in the moment and actually see my team win games in a row, which was something that I never was able to see for quite a long time. All I would ever see is false stones in it. See it. And now
Ross Murphy says it was the Brentford game away when Ronaldo Brown started his YouTube.
Oh yeah, Sesko, and it was
the lowest point of the season.
Oh no, it wasn't.
Go and check out Ronny. Go and check out Mark. We're going to be back tomorrow. Me, Ronny, Maka and Joseph is back from Munich, so we're going to be here for the watch along. Go and check out the preview is up at 7 o'clock tonight as well, so make sure you're hitting like, share and subscribe. That's been Mark Critchley, that's been Ronaldo Brown, I've been Jay Moy. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.